Tuesday, the 2nd of the 12th, 2025, and that means as always one thing, that there are a multitude of F1 centric threads at which we need no must pull. We got to talk about the fallout from the Qatar Grand Prix, McLaren ineptitude, God tier levels of it all, and sundry are calling them out. What were they thinking? Free pit stop? No, you guys choose to seize defeat from the jaws of victory. We'll talk about the Carlos Sainz effect. So too, we'll talk about Sir Lewis Hamilton now at odds with Frederick Vasseur, disagreeing on why their Qatar Grand Prix was so bad. We'll talk about McLaren and the pit stops, because even Aussie Parliament is chiming in. And so too, we'll talk about the Austrian crime that is Toto destroying one Dr. Hemlut Marko on the back of the accusations, and AB that Kimi Antonelli suffered. Let me show you guys this in the first instant. I think it's time that we put some respect on Carlos Sainz Jr.'s name. Now, some people, some aficionados have said that there was no way with a straight face that you could argue that replacing Carlos Sainz Jr. with Sir Lewis Hamilton was ever going to go well. One is younger, one is older, one is a technical feedback master, one is Carlos Sainz Jr., the other is Sir Lewis Carl Davidson Hamilton, 7-time champion. But here's what they call the Carlos Sainz effect, that every time this dude joins a team, whether it's Toro Rosso, Renault back in the day, McLaren, Scuderia, Ferrari, or now Williams, every time he joins and then leaves, he leaves the team in a better position as far as the constructors than when he joined them. He's not a bad driver, this Carlos Sainz Jr. Take that one to the bank. And then again, Alex Albon was dominating him earlier on in the season, but where are they now? 7 points between them in the drivers' standings, if I recall, in Carlos Sainz's first season. Here's the problem, chat. When you're talking about acclimatisation and extending Sir Lewis Hamilton the grace so he can play his way into the Scuderia Ferrari crease, Carlos Sainz is over there with 2 podiums at Williams, who ostensibly are a worse team than Ferrari. What are we doing here? This makes no sense. 2 podiums, Scuderia Ferrari and Sir Lewis Hamilton have 0 season to date. It's techier than techie things. Can you say buyer's remorse? And of course, it's race weekend going into Abu Dhabi. The title decider, hyping it up promo is all over the shop. And of course, there are 3 still in it, being Oscar Piastri, Maximilian Verstappen and Lando Norris. Here are the scenarios that you need to pay attention to. The pit to click as far as Maximilian Verstappen. If he can win and Lando Norris finishes lower, 4th or lower, then Maximilian Verstappen is 4, soon to be 5-time champion. Oh, the humanity. From Lando Norris's perspective, it gets a bit techier. If Max finishes 2nd or lower, then Lando Norris is champion. If he wins, it's techier than techie things. In fact, let's go through this. This is tech. It is a bit techie here. Lando Norris is champion. If Max Verstappen finishes 2nd or lower, it doesn't. Anything else doesn't matter. And then, of course, Lando Norris is champion if Oscar Piastri finishes 2nd or lower. It's that simple, chat. Again, Lando Norris goes into the season finale 12 points in hand, but it's techie, isn't it? This, because we have the conversation under the aegis of perceived impartiality / favoritism, and it's gone crazy here. Even the highest levels of Aussie Parliament are speaking about this. Roll the clip.
Thank you, Chair. Look, it's been a bit of a frustrating night for some Australians. I don't know who to ask this to, but you deal with transport and cars. So do you think McLaren is biased against Oscar Piastri and costing him the World Championship?
You're asking me for an opinion there.
Good answer. What about you, Minister?
I definitely think he's got some raw decisions this year, Senator Van, and someone with a daughter who's become obsessed with F1, she will be very upset when she gets up this morning.
Yeah, this is on behalf of my children too. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Oh, the humanity. These are the levels that we've reached as far as the F1 conversation. Bias and perceived favouritism. Well, the thing is, Toby, if you're talking about Lando Norris, I don't dislike Lando Norris, but I think he's worthy of criticism. Toby, if you're new to the channel, what we'll never do on here, not now, not ever, is sacrifice truth, value, nor objectivity at the altar of any cognitive dissonance, partisanship included. Lando's a brilliant driver when he's had his Weetabix. He had been a brilliant driver each of the past 3 Grand Prix before Qatar, but then in pressurised circumstance, he fumbles his lines. Not a good look from Lando Norris. Lest we forget, all he needed to do was get a decent start, get a decent qualifying lap, not make any mistakes, beat his teammate and Maximilian Verstappen, then he would have been champion already. Toby, just my opinion, Toby. But you can be an abbot of unreason if you want to. Oh, and by the way, on the back of that parliamentary procedure, Oscar Piastri wasn't too pleased, none too happy. Here's the conversation that we're having, Ray. Why do they not pit Oscar Piastri? If he's leading, then surely he has first priority. He has his picking of the strategies. And Oscar already said that he wanted to pit, or insinuated as much on the radio. If you are running a race and there are 2 mandatory pit stops, a safety car comes out on lap 7, meaning therefore that you can cut the remaining laps into even stints, then you pit. It's a no-brainer, even with the benefit of hindsight. It just doesn't make sense not to. Hannah Schmitz told us that. She was like, what? Yeah, like 7 laps. We'd already planned for it. This is scenario analysis, what you do before the bloody race. Hannah Schmitz was like, this doesn't make sense. 2 mandatory pit stops. You get a cheeky safety car on lap 7, no less. Then you pit. Many people are saying, Mark Hughes writes an article on Motorsport magazine saying words to this effect, that as far as Oscar Piastri, the only reason why you don't pit him is because you don't want to lose out on track position. There is, of course, clean air privilege, dirty air tax needs to be paid, particularly around Losail. That makes sense, but then why don't you pit Lando Norris? He doesn't have, there's no track position. He's already behind Maximilian Verstappen, so what are we doing? And of course, Mark Hughes speculates in Motorsport magazine that they make the mistake because of this need to treat their drivers equally. Listen, if you're going to give both of them privilege, then give both of them privilege. If you're going to mess up the race, then you mess it up for both of them. This makes no sense. Why would they not want one of their drivers to win? You can't ride 2 horses at the same time, for Pete's sakes. Egalitarianism, there is no place for it in F1. And you hear Oscar Piastri over the radio at the end of the race saying, I have no words. This is nonsense. You guys have completely ruined not just my race, but my championship. This dude was brilliant all race weekend long. And then they have the golden opportunity to pit him under safety car. They don't do it. But I contend, Toby, if we're playing balanced games, the Lando Norris, it should be equally, maybe even more aggrieved. Because what did he have to lose from being pitted? Only the fact that the perception would be, per Aussie Parliament, that they were doing over Oscar Piastri yet again. Oh, the humanity. Oh, and by the way, Dr. Hemlut Marko, and again, we have this conversation underneath the aegis of who's going to win the championship, because lest we forget, 2 things have happened this season that I think we'll be talking about at the end of Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the season finale, in a few days' time. In the first instance, it is Barcelona as far as Maximilian Verstappen's concerned. He said if he had one regret this season, it would be that, giving away 9 points at the altar of hot-headedness. You'll recall George Russell got super aggressive. Max Verstappen decided he was going to exact revenge. That revenge in this instance was not a dish best served cold. He wanted it now. Cheeky incident for which they penalised him. Max, if I recall, was running in 5th. The penalisation, the 5 seconds or 10 seconds penalty that they gave him, put him down to 10. That cost Max Verstappen 9 points. Oh, the humanity. Can you imagine if we were going to the season finale and Max Verstappen, instead of being 12 behind Lando, was 3? Oh, it would be chaos. Can you spell pressurised circumstances? And how would Lando deal with that? So too, we need to talk about Antonelli, right? Because Antonelli was fending off, should have fended off one Lando Norris. That would have been an extra 2 points in Max Verstappen's favour. 10 points to Delta as opposed to 12. And Antonelli had done such a brilliant job only a couple of weeks prior in fending off a fire-breathing dragon in Maximilian Verstappen. So the expectation, therefore, was that this should be child's play for Antonelli. He's a defensive maestro. Like fending off, holding off Lando Norris for an extra couple of laps shouldn't be a problem. But Antonelli made a critical mistake, snap oversteer error, to which GP over the radio said, I don't know what happened to Antonelli, Max. It looked like he just did that deliberately, the insinuation. It looked like his engine manufacturer favours, lest we forget that McLaren and Mercedes share the same engine. Indeed, Mercedes are the works team. They provide their engines. They procure a service to McLaren. Now, conspiracy theories speculate that, that's what happens in F1. F1 is a dirty sport. Of course, Antonelli's going to give favours to Lando Norris, his engine partner, but I think that's conspiratorial. Tinfoil hatter. It was a mistake, and mistakes happen in Formula One. GP shouldn't have said that probably, but again, to Lando Norris's point about how aggressive Red Bull are in the paint as far as some of their brinksmanship and sledging, GP went full send and said, you know what, it looked like Antonelli moved over, and that was a radio message that the whole world heard. Hemlut Marko concurred. He was like, Antonelli just waved him past. Looked like he waved him past. It was far too obvious. And then fans and stands all over the world do things that they shouldn't be doing. AB is not acceptable, not in F1 nor outside of it. Kimi Antonelli got it in the neck from everybody, every man and their dog, sledging him because he gave up an extra 2 points to Lando Norris and took 2 points from Maximilian Verstappen. This is an acceptable chat. Let's be honest. Can we have a grown-up, big boy conversation here? Like AB, that's what we're doing here. Kimi Antonelli is about 10 years old. What, and you're going to send him messages threatening his life? What are we doing here? Because of some F1, a sport? No, unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. You've got to call it as you see it. Sometimes I've got to shoot straight on here. It's unacceptable. And Toto will call it rightfully. So this is nonsense. What is Hemlut Marko and GP talking about? They've got a responsibility as key stakeholders of the sport that is F1. Toto says, this is utter nonsense. That blows my mind to even hear Dr. Hemlut Marko say that. How very brainless can you even be to say something like this? Toto's rules, here's his full quote per Autosport, because this is important. Total nonsense. Blows my mind to even hear that. How brainless can you even be to say something like that? Why would you even think that interfering in a driver's championship, you really need to check yourself? Toto, the boy who cried wolf, taking aim at the one they called Dr. Hemlut Marko. Here's what Kimi Antonelli had to say. Blacked out his profile on Insta and says, thanks everybody for the support. Grazie a tutti per il supporto. I tell you what, it's techie this is. Kimi Antonelli nor any other driver on the grid shouldn't have to go through this, especially not Kimi Antonelli, who's 18 years old. Grown man. Everybody wants to get Twitter fingers, Everyone's a big man in groups, and I don't think this is acceptable. Thou shalt not be emboldened with anonymity behind a keyboard. It's unacceptable. Red Bull duly did what Red Bull should have done and issued an apology. Comments made before the end and immediately after the Qatar Grand Prix, in brackets unsaid, by GP and Dr. Hemlut Marko, suggesting that Mercedes driver Kimi Antonelli had deliberately allowed Lando Norris to overtake him, are clearly incorrect. No kidding. Red Bull Racing. Replay footage shows Antonelli momentarily losing control of the car, thus allowing Norris to pass him. We sincerely regret that this has led to Kimi receiving online abuse. It's not acceptable, is it, chat? We've got to be better than this in F1. Come on, what are we doing? It's not acceptable for people to do that, but it's not a GP. It's not on GP or Helmut. The broadcasters literally said it on both Sky and F1 TV, but they've got Biochem Gold. True, you can't ultimately lay all of the culpability at the foot of GP and or Dr. Hemlut Marko, but surely they have a responsibility though. They have a responsibility. This happens. Sometimes you've got to account for the unruliness of fans. Do you know what I mean? You have to save them from themselves, because you have bad actors in this sport. It's not a good thing, but ultimately it's the truth. John says that's not the point, Farland. That kid is threatened. The kid is threatened is not their fault. It's the fault of the people that did it, which is atrocious. No, Joe, I agree with you, Joe, but there's a thing. There is such a thing called vicarious liability. If you're a key stakeholder at a company or a sports franchise, then you've got to you've got to hold yourself to account. You can't be trotting out those things. It's insightful, isn't it? No more complicated or simple than that. Listen, it will get techier than techie things. We will be live this race weekend for all of the free practices 30 minutes before, so too qualified, because apparently it's an important one. A race at which round 24, there will be some decisions, some exam questions of the driver's variety, for which we will get answers. Maximilian Verstappen has been on a tear. Momentum settings on 12. Mark Hughes wrote an article. In fact, let me read this out as we close. This is important. Mark Hughes wrote an article where he says that as improbable as Max Verstappen winning his 5th consecutive sounds, yet and still, it feels like there is an inevitability around it. Lest we forget, it was safety car at the perfect moment this weekend gone. It feels like the racing gods are doing like we said they would always do, which is, of course, punishing McLaren for putting their thumb on the weighing scales of competition more than they might need to. What are we doing?